I want to take this opportunity to say thank you, TNA. And no, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to be a smartass. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being serious here. I want to take this moment, this video, this opportunity, this time to say thank you, TNA. And why would I be saying that? Well, let me tell you why. All of you that have watched me for a long period of time through Off the Rope Show and now OTRS Central know that one of the biggest things that I've been beating the drum about over the years is the ridiculous notion in professional wrestling that in a world where the black athlete dominates the NFL, where the black athlete dominates the NBA, you come to professional wrestling and you see white guy A versus white guy B for the title. It is far too dominated by the white athlete. You might occasionally throw in a Hispanic wrestler, and there you go. That's pretty much it. Part of professional wrestling to me is getting people to be able to suspend their disbelief, being able to get them to buy into what is going on, to get them emotionally invested. And some of you are going to sit there and say, well, and maybe a lot of you will say, well, professional wrestling is a male soap opera. It's scripted, fake entertainment. There are all these different components with feuds and storylines and what have you that you can't directly compare it and relate it to professional sports. And to a degree, you may be right. However, I strongly disagree with you. And the reason I disagree with you is because at the end of the day, with all of these other components and factors being brought in, and professional wrestling, sports entertainment, if you will, being the unique entertainment genre that it is still ultimately all funneling back to and primarily built around the athleticism of the form of entertainment. It is still built around the sport of professional wrestling, the in-ring action. That is what everything branches off of. That is what everything funnels back into. So I think it is incredibly ridiculous and stupid that in this day and time, again, when you look at the NFL and the NBA being so heavily dominated by the black athlete in this country, a fan of one of those sports comes to watch professional wrestling and they see white guy A versus white guy B, and there you go. Even UFC, you've got different black guys, like a John Bones Jones dominating at the top spot. But you come to professional wrestling, and it's one pearly white face like mine versus another pearly white face like mine, maybe with a little bit more of a tan, and those are supposed to be the best in the world. What do you seriously think a lot of people tuning in will sit there and say? White guys at the top, and that's it? Oh, get the fuck out of here. What does that say about the product as a whole? Imagine if in the NFL you had a team of 53 white guys. Imagine if in the NBA you had a team of 12 white guys. Nobody will necessarily want to admit it, but you know what the response would be. You know what the reaction would be. You know what the perspective would be about that team. Everybody would laugh about that all-white NFL team. Everybody would laugh about that all-white NBA team, and they would sit there and assume that they would get their clocks roundly clean, and they very possibly would. But yeah, when it comes to professional wrestling for so many years, it has been such a white-dominated form of entertainment, a white-dominated sport and entertainment, if you will. And this is in particular really frustrated me when it comes to the WWE especially, because in their over 50-year history, they have never had a black man hold their top title. And no, don't throw in King Booker or Mark Henry. Those were two guys, and that was the World Heavyweight Championship that the company thought so much of that a couple of years it opened the show at WrestleMania. That was clearly their second-tier title. The top title is the WWF/WWF/WWE, now WWE World Heavyweight Championship. The belt with the freaking company's name on it. And in over 50 years, they have never once had a black man hold that title, to which some of you say The Rock, and I say The Rock disagrees with you because he thinks he's Samoan. So if he says he's Samoan first, how the fuck is he a black world champion? The point I'm getting at here is, for so many years, the WWE has been so disconnected from reality, whether that is just their not being able to be clued into the times, the racist tendencies of Vince and Michael P.S. Hayes and others. It could be a combination of things. But how frustrating is it when so many times you see young, promising black athletes go to the WWE and they're saddled with gimmicks where they rap, or they're saddled with gimmicks where they dance, or they're saddled with gimmicks where they're fucking street thugs. All of these stereotype type of gimmicks that do nothing but to perpetuate the stereotypes we have in the United States as a country as a whole about certain groups of people. And the WWE does nothing to help that. All they do is sit there and feed into that and help those stereotypes grow. And the WWE seems to be disconnected from the fact that a large portion of their fan base, larger than they maybe want to believe, is not white and is not Hispanic. It is black, and that is the God's honest truth. And every once in a while, those fans might get tired of rooting for people that have skin complexion like I do. They might actually want to see one of their own, somebody that looks like them, somebody that comes from a similar background to them, that can relate to them and understand them, be properly represented and be treated serious and be made into a big-time star. And to me, it's been one of WWE's grossest failures during my lifetime as a wrestling fan. And if you want any topic that'll ever get me to go off on a rant and rave about the WWE, it will be their racist tendencies and their tendency in particular to saddle black wrestlers with stereotype gimmicks and keep the black man down. Period. So, while I didn't watch Impact on Thursday, I kept in tune with what was going on via social media, via the website. And I saw what happened at the end of the show. I saw people start to chatter about this. I actually went to YouTube and found the clip of it so that way I could actually watch it. And TNA pulled the trigger. Oftentimes I've talked about how TNA needs to be different. TNA needs to have its own identity. TNA needs to be counterculture. They need to do the things that WWE doesn't do, can't do, or lacks the courage to do. And by God, to me, they freaking did that last night by making Bobby Lashley their new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Like I said before, it's one of the things that's frustrated me the most about the professional wrestling business during my lifetime as a fan, in particular the biggest company, the WWE. If they do have a black wrestler, he typically gets a stereotypical gimmick. They usually don't get pushed very well. That's for goddamn sure. And it's always like white guy A versus white guy B with the occasional Mexican thrown in because that fan base is so much more important than the black fan base. But here is TNA now. You've got Battletoad Destroyer apparently now. Bobby Lashley is your new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He's not rapping, he's not dancing, he's not singing, he's not shucking and jiving, he's not doing any of that stereotypical bullshit. He's not coming dressed to the ring like a fucking thug. He's not sitting there talking about mugging people and stealing their wallets or this or that. He's not talking about weed. He's not talking about Cavassier. None of that shit. He is the Battletoad, the Destroyer, Bobby Lashley. And they are making him a serious in-ring competitor. The same Bobby Lashley that WWE never really had any aspirations for, in my opinion, other than making him the ECW champion, if you will. But here's TNA. And while this might not have been the original plan, I'm not here to question that at this time. I'll talk about that. And whether or not they did it in the right place at the right moment, again, that's something I'll talk about at another time. To me, this represented so much to me personally as a professional wrestling fan to see TNA do something that to me is beneficial for the business as a whole. To me is beneficial to us as wrestling fans as a whole. To me establishes some credibility and believability for the professional wrestling business that has been drastically lacking for years. Again, in an era and time where the black athlete is dominating so many sports in this country, you come to professional wrestling, which is still primarily built around the sport, the athleticism of professional wrestling, and it's dominated by this white guy versus that white guy. But here's TNA, and not only did they just make Bobby Lashley the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, you've got a top faction, a heel faction, which, yes, has been overdone by that company to the nth degree. But it is MVP, it is Bobby Lashley, and it is Kenny King. 3 black men at the top of the company. And not just that, but 3 black men that are being booked in a serious way. You have MVP in a serious authority role figure. You have Bobby Lashley, the Destroyer, they're calling him now. Freaking Battletoad Bobby Lashley is being booked as very serious. No clown shit, no bullshit. Same thing with Kenny King. They're booking him as serious, as a viable, legitimate threat, and somebody to take serious. And all of that makes me happy. All of that makes me take TNA more seriously. And all of that makes me proud to see what TNA did that WWE still lacks the courage to be able to do. And I say thank you, TNA, for doing this. Now, I know I said that heading into Slammiversary, that was their last chance to get me back, or I wasn't going to watch for a while. Maybe you're going all the way to Bound for Glory. And I said that at the Slammiversary review that it was a good, passable show, but it still didn't do enough to get me back, and I might check it back out again at Destination X. But this here did enough to me to get me back, at least for the time being. Now, some of you are going to sit there and call me a hypocrite, and you are more than welcome to that. And to a degree, I am being a hypocrite here. However, I feel like I would be being an even bigger hypocrite, and I would lose credibility and respect in your eyes, and most especially important to me in my own eyes, if after all of this time and all of these videos talking about it and all of these years of being frustrated and angered by this treatment of black wrestlers in the professional wrestling business, if I didn't get behind this, if I didn't support this. This has been one of the biggest things I've been bitching about for so damn long, and the company finally had the courage to give it to me. If I didn't take that opportunity to tell them thank you and show them my appreciation by giving them another chance and supporting their company and their product, then what the fuck does that make me, and what does that make me as a man? It doesn't make me any type of man at all. TNA gave me what I've wanted for so long, and I feel obligated to provide support to them. I feel obligated to give them another chance. Now, this is not a permanent get-out-of-jail-free card by any stretch of the imagination, but they did enough here to sit there and get me back. So next week, I'm going to watch Impact. Next week, I'm going to do an Impact review. How long is it going to last? Who knows? But again, I want to say thank you, TNA, for giving me something that I've wanted a major wrestling company to do in this country for so damn long. Thank you, TNA, for sitting there and doing something that the WWE doesn't have the courage to do and doesn't have the desire to do. Thank you, TNA, for booking black men in a top spot in your company and making them serious characters and not caricatures and not guys that fit into certain type of societal stereotypes that we have pounded down our throats so often in this country. And most importantly of all, thank you, TNA, for giving the wrestling business a little bit of believability and a little bit of credibility, for sitting there and having something other than a white guy as your world champion. I'll be watching next week. I hope this means more positive things to come. But for now, thank you, TNA. This means a lot to me, and I truly mean that. The Battletoad, the Destroyer, Bobby Lashley. This is awesome. Now I hope he feuds with MVP, and then he feuds with Kenny King, and they keep the belt amongst each other for a fucking year. Awesome.